Got to be on the Facebook page. Type in the little comments there. I will read them on the big screen here. And we'll have a conversation about the Green Bay Packers, who have the day off on Tuesday. So not a lot of news, not a ton of news being generated on their off day. However, I will say this. Josh Jones, the second-year safety, last night co-hosting the Packers News weekly show. What is it called? Clubhouse Live. He let slip, or just told everybody that he plans on playing on Sunday in Washington when the Packers travel to take on Dan Snyder's team. Nick, what's up? How are you, man? Good to see you. Hello to everyone joining slowly and surely here in the comments section. Stefano starts us off with a question about Josh Jones. Jones to rotate with Bryce? I would doubt that. I mean, Bryce was the starter throughout camp, and Josh was clearly running second string behind him. I don't think Bryce's up and down day on Sunday is going to change any of that, especially with Josh having been off for so long now. I do think you'll see Josh Jones in for Whitehead, who we saw play quite a few snaps against the Vikings. But we'll see. You can't really say too much in regards to how they plan to use him when we haven't really seen Pettine try and deploy him in the regular season yet. But that would be my hunch. Rather than Bryce coming off the field, more likely when you see a lot of those multiple DB sets, Whitehead will be the one losing playing time. Andy, is Earl Thomas a possibility? I highly doubt it. Now, I'm never going to say never because, Brian Gutekunst has said many times in the past they want to be in on every conversation. Clearly, Earl Thomas has been someone who teams have been talking about all offseason, the Cowboys most notably and most reportedly. Other teams have been in on that action. The Packers haven't been linked to them with any credible reports that I've read or heard about. But that doesn't mean they're not making calls. And clearly with the Seahawks starting 0-2, clearly reticent to pay Thomas what he wants to be paid. You can't say it's impossible or that it would never happen. I would highly doubt that it ever happens, though. News on King. We won't get an injury update on any of the guys until tomorrow. Clearly, Kevin King suffering a groin injury is less than ideal. You'd like to have him in there when they take on Washington on Sunday. But we do know the Packers medical staff will always err on the side of caution. If they think they need to take a week or two to get him right, I'm sure that's what they'll do. Groin injuries are tricky. They do tend to linger, and they are often ripe for re-injury if you get out there too fast. So my hunch, and this is total guesswork before we have anything on the injury front, any kind of injury report, etc., my guess, if I had to bet today, Tuesday, I would say I would be surprised to see him out there on Sunday. But we'll see. Get a better idea starting tomorrow afternoon when we get our first injury report of the week. Who gets cut for Jones? Freddie, we'll get that answer tomorrow. There's been all sorts of speculation these last 2 weeks. It's Christmas Eve for that question. We'll find out and open that present tomorrow, probably in the middle of the afternoon. What's up with Nick Perry, almost non-existent? Mac, I couldn't agree more. I talked about it on yesterday's chat. It's really concerning that there's this guy that they paid not an insignificant amount of money. I mean, I don't think he's not making Von Miller money, but they paid him a decent amount of coin to get after the quarterback, and down after down, the only thing you really see from him is a bull rush. And now, he does a great job of pushing his man back into the quarterback, but if he can't disengage and or come up with a counter off of that move, then that's a little concerning. You would like to see a little bit more action there. For all the kind of grief that Clay Matthews has taken over the last couple of years, Nick Perry, has to show a little bit more as a guy who clearly has played with the club on his hand and, done what he can to get out there. He's right as rain as far as we know. And if he's fully healthy and that's what he's offering, you want to see Reggie Gilbert probably get a few more opportunities. Nick, Perry's secret weapon is the club. He needs the club, maybe. Maybe that is. Maybe it's Samson in the hair, Maybe he needs that club to be effective. What a terrible example video that the league is using for hitting the QB, Eric. Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a lot yesterday. I've been ranting about it online, on Twitter, what have you. I'm going to try to avoid the whole quarterback roughing the passer nonsense that has been dominating a lot of the discourse these last 48 hours. Trying to turn the page. Trying to turn the page, my friend. How will the running game be with Aaron Jones back? Felipe, that's a really good question. I thought you saw how effective Ty Montgomery could be these first 2 weeks. It's funny because I think you saw Jamal Williams, clearly he's out there because he is their best pass protector. He kind of reverted back to some of the vision issues we saw those first few weeks in the regular season last year. And then clearly, he was injured and then he came back. And then later in the year, he really seemed to improve in that area. And I don't know if it's a little bit of a regression or what, but he seems to, it really appears like he's kind of reverted back to, trying to hit holes that aren't there, non-existent. And rather than seeing openings coming free and planting his foot in the ground and getting upfield, something that Aaron Jones does a lot of and does very well. That doesn't mean that, he can't improve or that he won't improve. I think he will as the year goes on. But as far as number of snaps, it's going to be really hard for them to keep Jamal Williams off the field when you see how good he is in pass pro and what he offers there. It's hard to think that much is going to change in that regard. I do think you'll see a series where McCarthy says, okay, let's give Aaron Jones, 3, 4, 5 carries. Maybe a couple of times throughout the game, but I do think Jamal Williams will still be your lead back. Make Gilbert the starter. Josh, it sounds on the face of it possibly like a rash move 2 weeks into the season, but if Gilbert continues to look as he's looked, which is like the most effective edge rusher, someone with at least a little bit of juice and ability to bend and get around the edge, then, maybe it's not that crazy. I don't think you lose anything in regards to the running game, which would be your worry, especially taking Nick Perry off the field. But, if that continues, then, at least you got to start splitting up those reps. And at least you got to start getting Gilbert on the field a little bit more. We'll see. What's up with our drafted wide receivers? They can't seem to get on the field. Speed is useless on the sidelines. Well, Brian, I would say that none of them really offer a ton of speed. There's a reason they were drafted on the third day. If they were speed merchants, they would be probably A, drafted higher, and B, probably would be dressing on Sunday. But, St. Brown and Jamal Moore aren't exactly speed merchants that are going to run by anybody. And, essentially it comes down to, you saw Valdez-Scantling had his first reception there early in the game, and that's great. But Rodgers is going to be going to guys he trusts, and none of those guys have put up the kind of resume where, the kind of resume we saw from Geronimo Allison his rookie year, when Rodgers made it very clear he trusted him to be wherever he was supposed to be. Rodgers gave those guys their chances throughout summer, but, auditions are over. The pecking order has been set. And unless there's an injury or two, I don't see those guys dressing anytime soon. Maybe we'll see a fluctuation from week to week as far as which one is up. But, they don't contribute necessarily big time on special teams. And that is number one, what is going to get them, dressed and on the 46 on Sunday. So it's an investment. It's a long-term investment in the future. They clearly are grooming those guys, hoping that one or more kind of blossom into something. But right now, immediate help, you're going to get it from Geronimo Allison and Jimmy Graham at the tight end spot. Those are going to be your wide receivers past Davante Adams and Randall Cobb. You guys always come in here with your Colin Cowherd takes. I don't care what Colin Cowherd has to say. I don't care what Colin Cowherd has to say. But yet, you always come in here and type it. Kenny, we touched on the Kevin King injury a little bit earlier. There won't be any updates until tomorrow. We get our first injury report tomorrow afternoon. The moves Adam puts on defenders after catching the ball are so impressive, he looks like an NBA player driving to the basket. Kevin, that's a really apt comparison, I think. We've seen now a couple of times this year where he's caught the ball short of the end zone and gotten in with defenders in front of him. He's done a great job with the ball in his hands. As my buddy Zach Cruz wrote for Packers Wire today, I encourage you to check his piece out. For a guy, and we talked about it, I talked about it a little bit yesterday on the Packers Daily Chat. For a guy who is telling, the Fox broadcasting team he wants to be considered in the top 5 wide receivers in the National Football League. He's got to make that play to win the game. At the end there, Rodgers fit in a great ball on the boot to the right side. I know the linebacker makes a play on the football, but that's your ball, man. That's the game in your hands, and you drop it. And then on the third down play, Rodgers puts that only, right in the corner, the front corner of the end zone. It's another ball. The top 5 wide receivers in the NFL, they make that play. So, yes, ball in his hand. He's been amazing, but you'd like to see a little bit more from your number 1 wide receiver. Raymond just made some amazing banana bread. That's probably my favorite comment ever in our Packers Daily Chat. Don't you think we are majorly flying under the radar in most major publications' power rankings? Toby, I'm gonna offer you a free piece of advice. Don't pay attention to power rankings. They don't mean anything. Who cares? Here's my power rankings. Number 1, Green Bay Packers. 2 through 32, everybody else. Live with that. Do you think they have anything to be worried about with Washington? Absolutely. It's the NFL. Any given Sunday, they're on the road. Anything can happen. Don't forget, back in 2010, last time they won the Super Bowl, they lost to the Dolphins and Washington in back-to-back weeks, in back-to-back overtime games, on the road in that game, actually. We don't know who this team is yet. We don't know their identity. Talking about the Packers here. They can lose to anybody on any given Sunday, including Washington this week. How are players supposed to get sacks if the QB throws the ball before the QB gets sacked? And if he gets hit, it's an automatic penalty now is BS. Kenny, your guess is as good as mine. I thought Mike Golick put it really well on ESPN radio earlier when he said, look, these guys are following your rules. Clay Matthews puts his hand on the ground so as not to put the full weight on the quarterback. He's following your stupid rules, and you're still throwing flags. I wish I had an answer for you. Really do. Will Rodgers be able to move normally in Washington? Riley, that's a good question. I think we saw a lot more mobility out of Aaron Rodgers against the Vikings than I think many of us expected. Clearly the knee is an issue, but I think he should be able to move at least as well as he did Sunday against Minnesota. He didn't suffer any setbacks. He said, obviously it was sore, but he expected to be fine to go a week. No setbacks occurred during the game. So he should be able to move at least as well as he moved against the Vikings, if not a little better, given that the injury should be healing along the way. Now, he did say it will still be bothering him. It's expected to linger for at least a month, which is not obviously not what you want to hear as a Packers fan, but I would expect him to be able to at least, as he said, he told Mike halfway through the game, if they had said during the game planning meetings they wanted to take out all the boot action, all of the stuff that put him on the move. But he told Mike, look, I'm comfortable running any kind of, boot action, any rolling in the pocket, moving in the pocket. He could handle it all. So maybe you might see a little bit more movement in the pocket from the quarterback by design. Now, I don't think they're going to go hog wild, but maybe they put in a couple keep passes, a couple boot action things just to keep the Washington defense honest. Been impressed with Geronimo? You should be, Kenny. He's had a solid start to the year. Everything from catching the football to run after the catch to blocking punts on special teams. A good start. Personal foul and pass interference should be reviewable. I agree on personal foul / anything that can get you ejected from the football game. I think that absolutely should be reviewable. But pass interference, man, the games are already 3 hours. Nah, man. Nah. That's just my opinion. I know there are lots of others who disagree, but, they make the call, okay, fine, pass interference, go. When will I bring back the crooked lampshade, Riley? As soon as Corey makes a gift for it and I can put it back there. Thoughts on Mo Wilkerson? I thought he was a little more active against Minnesota. Still not exactly, I think, what they were hoping for as far as disruption. There were a few plays against Minnesota where he almost gets home. There was a couple of stunts in particular where he came looping inside, and I thought he was going to get to Cousins. But yeah, I would think early returns are, I'd give it a C plus B minus. How's that? Time management needs to improve this weekend. Eric, the only thing I'd kill them for is the taking that delay of game penalty after the drop by Adams. That really killed them because it took him from a third and manageable basically to a 3rd and 15. And then Rodgers obviously took the shot to the end zone and they kicked the field goal. But to me, if that's a third and much more manageable, I think maybe Rodgers isn't so hell-bent on getting to the end zone. But that's a nitpick. Offense still trying to find rhythm? Absolutely. Rodgers said this all summer long. They're going to be a work in progress. I don't think anything has changed. If anything, it's become more of a work in progress because of Rodgers' injury. But they're not going to hit they're not going to be gunning all cylinders for at least a game or two yet. Now, that's not an excuse. You still got to score points and you still got to move the football. But I don't think we've seen them even come close to scratching their potential yet, even in the 3-touchdown explosion in the fourth quarter against the Bears. Why do the Packers always give up on the running game at some point in the game? Julia, I'll give you 2 reasons. Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. And people always want to lay the blame on McCarthy, but it's not all on McCarthy. It is the tandem of McCarthy and Rodgers that inevitably gets them into a point where, especially if they've had some success at some point throughout the game, they'll get a little pass happy. And you saw that with the 3-and-out after they took the lead into the late third quarter, I think it was, and they went 3-and-out, and then the Vikings scored, and then it was game on. And then they finally got back to the running game, but then by then the Vikings had woken up. And it does, always kind of seem like there is a stretch where they get a little pass happy and they get away from a ground game which clearly had been a bit effective early on against the Vikings. Is the Packers defense better than the Patriots defense? Adam, I'd call it a push right now. The Patriots are kind of, I wouldn't say famous for, but they have a reputation for being poor early on in seasons and then really shoring it up as the year goes on and becoming a force as they make a playoff run, whereas the Packers are famous for just allowing a lot of points all the time. Does Tony Brown start to get reps over Devon House? Tony Brown on the practice squad? I doubt it. What's killing me about the Devon House thing, I went back and looked at the coach's tape today specifically to see, and Josh Jackson was not even on the field on that 75-yard touchdown to Devon House. House and Tremont were the outside corners. They had Jair inside, and they had Whitehead playing inside alongside Blake Martinez, and then they had Bryce and HaHa as the safeties. I mean, how do you put House out there over Josh Jackson? That kills me. And then, of course, the very next series on the play where HaHa Clinton-Dix got the interception, they had Jair Alexander outside. They had Josh Jackson in the slot. How do you have Devon House out there over Josh Jackson? That kills me. That blows my mind. Tommy, that's very nice of you to say. I got a lot of heat from fellow Packers fans for saying Rodgers is as much to blame as Mike McCarthy for the failure down the stretch. What do you think? Well, hey, you don't have to go much further than Aaron Rodgers himself after the game. Rodgers 100% put some of the blame on him, on his own play, on his play on the fumble, because he has a first down there. And if he runs it there, they're in field goal range. And then the inability to get the ball out of his hands on the blitz on third down. So, heck, don't even, you don't have to take my word for it. Talk to Aaron Rodgers. He took the blame. As well he should. Now, is he as much to blame as Mike McCarthy? It's Mike McCarthy it's his mindset and it's his play calling saying, okay, we're going to go for the end zone. We're going to go for the win. You and I probably would have run the football there, kicked the field goal, making the user timeouts, traditional football. Mike McCarthy was going for the kill shot. I didn't agree with it, but I get where he's coming from. I get why he called the game that way. And heck, Aaron Rodgers is the one taking those shots into the end zone. There's stuff available for him underneath, especially on the rollout. The back is out, to his right there early on. Could have just taken that, tried to get some more yardage, but, he's going for the end zone. Hard to kill him for that. Really hard to kill him for that. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I didn't get to yours. As you see on the screen here, they do fly by rather fast. Don't miss Packer Transplants tomorrow. Corey's back in town. We're sure to have a lot of fun. Always a good time. Thank you so much for all the questions. Thanks for checking us out on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're checking us out. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you tomorrow. You guys have a great day.